Good afternoon, everybody. This is Chris Scully and Bob Spitz coming to you live from Drive. And today we're going to talk about getting your exit plan in place and what that actually takes. And I'll start off with this statement. The best time to put an exit plan in place is the day you start your business. You can then proceed forward with growing your business in a way that it will actually make it easier for you to exit. And that's the smartest way to do exit planning, without a doubt. And there's a number of different ways that a shop owner can exit a shop, right, Bob?
Yeah, he sure can. And the other great thing about that philosophy or that viewpoint is you're starting the business with the ultimate goal at the end for most entrepreneurs is to successfully exit a business and sell it profitably.
Right.
So you're starting right now with the goal in mind.
Exactly.
Because eventually you won't own the business anymore. That's just
that's
the
guaranteed.
reality.
Yeah, that's guaranteed.
Because you can
Whether
either
it's by choice or by not by choice. But
yeah,
that's the truth.
and there's really about 4 ways you end up exiting a business, and we've seen them all.
Mm-hmm.
One, you just let the business kind of peter out and sell off the assets, and if you own the land, then you can lease the building. If you built a building that is suitable for something other than automotive, it's a little harder if it's strictly automotive. That's one way. Another way, if you've got family that are interested in it, you can sell it to family or will it to family. If you have employees that are interested, you can sell it to employees, and that can be tricky. We've seen that one go in some different directions.
Yeah.
Then, of course, you can always sell it to some outside source, some interested party.
Yeah, whether it's another guy who wants to get into business for himself, just like you did, or if you're a collision shop, you can potentially make it interesting to a consolidator and sell it that way.
Right.
So there's a lot of options when it comes to selling a shop or exiting a shop. And a lot of people I've talked to over the years, they miss an important point, which is that the best way to exit is with the shop in excellent condition.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm talking about, and we talked about this a few times between us, but when I say excellent condition, what we're talking about is stage 4. Your shop is in a condition where there's a manager there who's running it. You've got a good crew. You've got systems in place. You've got a playbook that details how everything is supposed to be done. And when you go to sell a business that's in that kind of condition, you're going to get a better price for it than if you don't.
It's just the way it is. You can sell a fixer-upper, or you can sell a turnkey.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's a car or a business.
That's absolutely true. Or a house or whatever. Yeah.
But the other thing that I think is missed a lot of times, Chris, is the estimation of time and effort to put a shop into that condition.
Right.
Right. If you're thinking right now, well, I'd like to get out in 5 years, and you haven't started the process.
Yeah, you're
that's
already behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, that's a very steep hill to climb in 5 years.
Yes.
Right. Which runs us back to the original statement. The best time to plan your exit is the day you open the business.
Yeah, and that brings to mind another point that, and we talk about this in the succession and exit planning workshop, as well as planning for success, is you have to have a financial plan involved. And every financial planner I've ever talked to will always say the same thing. The earlier you start on your retirement plan, the better.
Oh, absolutely.
It makes it a ton easier to save for your retirement or put together a retirement nest egg if you start when you're 30 than if you start when you're 50.
Right.
It's
Oh, absolutely.
ridiculous the amount of difference something like that makes. And so that's another side to this, that they do coincide. You get your personal finances in order, you put that retirement nest egg in place, and while you're doing that, you get your shop in order and you get it really dialed in. But it's not a short process, either one.
It's not.
And
You know, a good friend of mine, a good client of ours, when I first met him was in 94,
mhm,
right? And he had taken the business over from his father. He and his brother took it over from his father. And by 96, because I don't think owning a shop was ever really his goal. I think he did it more out of duty to
yeah,
his dad. By 96, we talked about it and he started his exit plan then. What was it going to take? And it took him 25 years to really get into the condition that it needed to be and to be of the value that it needed to be, so that when he sold it, even after taxes, he had enough money. Because that's the other point, you know, you think about what is my business worth? And if you sold it after taxes, how long is that money going to last?
not very long.
Not very long. That's right.
Yeah. And this is something that a lot of shop owners don't really know or have never been told, is that if you're selling a shop, particularly if you don't own the land, the amount of money you're going to get for it isn't going to cover your retirement.
No.
No, it's just not. And
Uh,
the fact is that you need to plan and put that retirement nest egg there, and then what you sell your shop for could be the last bit that you need to put you over the top. And that's a whole process of really talking to a financial planner and learning, okay, well, what would I need? Let's say I live to be 90, which is not out of the question these days.
no, it isn't.
If I live to be 90 and I want to retire at 65, how much money do I need?
Right.
Because that's 25 years
That's right. So you're not
of
eating cat food at the end.
right. And that's something that's really important. And it really starts there. If you don't know how much you need to retire financially, you can't plan correctly.
That's right. It's like anything else. You need to know what the goal is
Right.
so you can work towards it.
Yeah.
And, you know, another interesting point that goes along with the best time to plan your exit is the day you start, is because if you do that, then this next thing is almost natural, and that is run your business like you have to sell it.
Right.
You know, and that's true. And it's kind of funny, but that's also true when you own a home.
Right.
Live
Right.
in that home like you need to sell it.
Yeah.
Right.
Keep it maintained, keep it in good shape, do all of those things so that if you wanted to put it on the market tomorrow, you're good to go.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have a year's worth of pulling your hair out trying to get it into the right condition.
Yeah.
But if you run your business like you have to sell it, you always have your eye on that. You're looking at it from that point of view, because when you're thinking about selling something, you look at it differently than if you're not.
Right.
Right? You get
And
more critical about it.
absolutely. And if you take it a step further of, okay, what would I look for if I was buying this business? Then you're really focused on the right things, because chances are the things that you would look for as a shop owner, if you were looking to buy another shop, are exactly what the buyers of your shop are going to be looking for.
Right.
And that's a very important point of view to take, because, and honestly, while curb appeal is still important in a shop, it's not as important as things like your systems in place and your personnel being well trained, and you've got a good playbook, and you've got a
And your
well
CRM
organized.
is loaded with active, accurate client base, because that
Exactly.
customer base is really the gold mine.
which brings up the other point, which is another attractive point for a buyer of a business. If you're looking to exit your business, make sure, please do yourself a favor, make sure you've got the best technology available,
Right.
because
That you're
that
current.
makes a difference. You know, nobody's going to want to buy a shop that isn't using the most current technology,
Yeah,
because
still
they're going to
writing
have to
ROs on
upgrade it.
paper.
Oh yeah. Well,
It's
that would
like,
be the worst.
yeah, it's like, whoa.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I would go, no, thank you.
Yeah. Because I know everything else is probably not accurate or not straight, which leads me to the next point is the finances.
Got to be
Because
in a good shape.
they've got to really be squeaky clean.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, you know, when you own your own business, there's so many opportunities to write things off that have nothing to do with the business.
Yeah,
And that'll deflate the value of the business faster than anything.
absolutely. And that's such a huge point, because when somebody who's looking for a business that will give them a good return on investment will first look at your finances.
Hmm.
And if the finances don't look good, they're not going to go any further.
No.
That's it. They're done.
Yep. It's over.
So these things are things that
And
you
it's got
have
to
to
go
put in
back, not just 1 year. It's got to go back
several years.
several years.
Yes. And so these things are not things you can put in place at the last minute. Trust me, you don't want to try to revamp your finances and go backward 3 years to do it, because that is an insane amount of work, causes an insane amount of confusion. If you need to make major changes to your finances, you need to get that started immediately, and then have several years of well-managed finances before you're going to try to exit.
Right.
It's really important.
Right. And if you're trying to sell that business to an outside source, they're going to hope that those employees stay.
Yeah.
Which means your succession of all the different jobs you're wearing now has got to be complete,
That's right.
especially that manager position. Because, you know, I've heard many times, well, I just need to get a manager in here. And they have no idea what that means.
No, they don't. You know, and too often what happens to business owners is they get somebody like take a service advisor, and they turn over certain parts of that service advisor job, but they keep other parts.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't even realize that some of the stuff that they've kept isn't actually their job as the owner. It's not even their manager's jobs. It's the service advisor's job. And that's part of your succession planning, is really analyzing, okay, what are all of the things you do?
Right.
And whose job is each one of those things?
That's right. You list every job you do, no matter how little, right down to if you find yourself dumping the trash,
Yeah, I was
you
just
write
going to
that
say
down.
that. Yeah,
Making the
absolutely.
coffee, whatever.
Yeah. Because what's happening there, and let's say you're the one taking out the trash, or you're taking out or you're the one making the coffee or cleaning the bathroom. That's another one that people don't think about, right?
Yeah.
um you need to make a decision about that. Whose job is that? And then you need to invest the time to ensure that that person knows that it's their job, that you've got everything in all the procedures in your playbook about that job, and then that person knows how to do it exactly the way you were doing it, and then you no longer have to do it. And
Right.
that's a process that you may have to go through actually several times before you're fully able to step away from the shop for a period of time and not worry about whether or not things are going to get done.
Yeah. And, you know, you mentioned stepping away, which is always a good test of how operational is the business, is just go on vacation.
Yep.
Do not call the business while you're gone,
Right.
and come back and assess.
Yeah.
You know, how did
And
it go?
and here's a good trial run for, are you really ready to exit? Can you be gone for a few months without babysitting anybody? Yeah, go ahead and look at the KPIs. You know, have your managers send you a weekly plan,
Yeah,
but
handle your
don't,
finances.
yeah, and handle what you need to handle that is properly your job. So, but be gone.
Right.
And if everything runs smoothly and you don't get sucked back into the shop, you're ready. You've accomplished that stage 4 that's stable enough where you're going to get the best exit scenario you can possibly get.
Yeah.
And by the way, for anybody who's thinking about, well, you know, I don't need to get a manager, I'm going to turn it over to my son or my daughter or whatever. Oh, yes, you do.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
not only that, but there's, if you want your son or daughter to succeed at running your shop, then it's vital that you do these steps.
Yeah. These steps have got to be done. And you know, we lay it out pretty well in our succession and exit planning workshop.
Yeah.
Because it go back to all those different jobs you're currently doing that you don't even think about. And you just take one job, and let's take the simple one of cleaning the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the janitorial job that you're doing. Well, then the next step is you write a little checklist of the sequence of actions that have to occur to achieve the goal of a clean bathroom. And then
Right.
from that checklist, you look at, well, what procedures do I need to write, or policies I need to write, or videos I need to make? And then that all goes into the playbook under that play, a clean bathroom, right? Cleaning the bathroom.
Right.
And that's the play. And you just do that for every job you're doing. So once
Mm-hmm.
again, if you know, we're talking about, well, I'd like to get out of here in 5 years. Well,
Start today.
you better start like yesterday.
Yeah, and you know, and John Starkey actually made that point. He made that mistake, and that's why we're talking about this, is because there are a lot of holes you can fall into trying to exit, that because you didn't think it all the way through or you didn't have everything in place. And the most important one is clearly defined policies and procedures. John's absolutely right about that. You've got to have those in place if you want to exit. It will get harder and harder and harder to exit a business, no matter which scenario we're talking about, other than letting it peter out, because that one you don't have to do anything.
Right. Sell off the
But
assets, 5
right.
cents on the dollar.
But you want to turn it over to your kids. You want to sell it to another person. You want to sell it to employees. Any of those types of situations, the better shape the shop is in, the more successful your transition out of it will be, period. And getting that playbook in shape with everything documented, use videos, use written policies and procedures, use diagrams and flow charts, you know, use all of the tools that you can use. Then what'll happen is it'll be much easier to exit. You'll have a hard time finding a buyer for a disorganized, sloppily run business. I don't care what industry you're in.
Yeah,
It's
unless
hard to
it's the
find
land
buyers
they're
for those
after.
businesses. That's right.
Right.
And there may be a scenario where you'll find somebody that wants the land and nothing else. Okay, you got lucky. That's not going to happen to everybody.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so you want to put your business in that best possible shape. And if you're turning it over to a loved one, for example, then please do them the favor of put the business in shape so that they can be very successful.
Yeah, because you know, one of the hardest parts, especially when you started a business from ground up, you get very good at everything you do in that business, and the business becomes like it's a concept.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this one thing. It's running the business. right?
Right.
And you grew with it. So all those things that you do, that's just conceptually, well, that's just running the business.
Hmm.
And now how do I take this concept of running the business and break it down into all those little things that need to be done so that it does continue run the way I'm running it? And that's an exercise. And that takes really, it's very hard to do on your own. That takes a good coach to work with you
Yes.
so that you can bounce those ideas off of and get them to look at the things you're not looking at.
Yeah, that's
Right.
right.
Which leads me to, if you're thinking about succession, you're thinking about exiting, you have to have a team. You have to have a team of professionals working with you.
Yeah, let's talk about that a minute, because there's a lot of different details that go into that transition of, okay, let's say you got your shop in good shape, right? There's a whole lot of detail that goes into transitioning a business from one owner to the other. So your team should include your coach
Mhm.
here at Drive. It should include your attorney.
Yep.
It should include your accountant, and it
Yep.
should include your financial planner. Those are the minimum requirements to successfully move out of a business.
Yeah.
If you don't have them all and you miss something, it could come back to bite you years later,
Or it could cost you a lot of money,
or it can cost you a lot of money. Exactly. Either way, you
which
don't
I
want to deal with
also,
that.
no, and I also recommend you also have a business broker,
Yeah,
someone who's in the business of selling businesses.
exactly. That's actually a great point.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we've talked about a lot of things. I think that we can't emphasize the point of training and the policies and procedures enough. So I want to go back to that, because let's just take any position in a shop, technician, for example. And I picked that for a very specific reason, because a lot of times people look for a technician and they'll look at what their skills are regarding repairing a vehicle. Just because that guy might be an A-Tech, might be 20 years of experience. You hire him, there's still things that you have to train that technician on in terms of how to work in your shop.
That's right.
And that means, and this is an often missed point, that means you need a technician playbook for your shop.
Right.
How do you do inspections? And let's say you're doing digital inspections. Well, which platform are you using? Are you using Bolt-On? Are you using AutoVitals? Are you using Protractor or somebody else? And what's the technician's job there? How many pictures are they supposed to take, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just taking one very small part of the technician's job to emphasize the amount of detail that goes into a really good succession and a really good system and playbook for those systems.
Yeah.
There's a lot of detail to it, and it takes stepping back. And as you said, you may look at it conceptually. Well, now you got to step back and you got to go, okay, what are the component parts of this thing?
Right.
And you got to break that stuff down.
You can't just say, do this.
No, that's the problem.
Or
And
follow me around.
right. And so all those things that you had that you just did and that you take for granted, like all your techs know how to do inspections because you trained them all. Well, okay, but is it all documented in your playbook?
Right.
And can you take that playbook and just give it to a brand new tech, and will they be able to understand it?
Yeah.
How to work in your shop as opposed to the dealership they just came from, or the shop that they worked in 20 years ago, or whatever else.
Yeah, because
there's
that's
differences.
one of the problems with hiring an older A-Tech who may have some built-in bad habits
Mhm.
or a whole different viewpoint on fixing vehicles than you do.
Right.
So expressing the culture of your business and expressing your philosophy on a properly repaired vehicle is really important to communicate.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could have the wrong fit, or you could have someone who just won't fit,
Right.
right?
And these are things that so often get missed when you're talking about your exit plan, is things like your philosophy and, your values, and what is it that built your business and made it successful. Is always It always comes down to the owner and what their philosophy is and their values and how they view their customers and how they treat their customers. It all started with that person.
That's right.
And that has to get communicated to everybody, and everybody has to buy in on it. And that's where you get that team that allows you to get to stage 4. And this is all part of building a shop playbook that actually is useful to running and growing your business.
Yeah, you should be able to replicate this shop.
Right,
It should be franchisable.
right,
Well, what does that take? And how is it that one person struggles with one shop and another one can have 10,
right.
right?
It's
What,
all
what,
down.
what's the difference?
It's all the playbook.
It is.
It's
It
100% the
is.
playbook.
When you were a kid, you worked at McDonald's, right?
Yep, yep.
They had a heck of a playbook, didn't they?
Oh, they had that stuff dialed in, and we're talking way before the internet, and they had training videos and they had manuals that were all analog, but whoa.
Yeah, it was
Like
part of Ray Kroc's genius.
Yeah, it really was. And you can do that in any business. And that's the thing that people don't think about, is that any business of any size, you can get to that level of detailed training where you could take a 16-year-old and teach them every part of running your business, and they could run it as well as anybody.
Right.
If you can get your business into that shape, exiting will not be a problem for you.
That's right. You'll have a very successful exit. And that's what we hope for all of you.
Exactly. And since we're coming close to our time, there's a couple of plugs I'm going to make at this point. We've got several workshops that tie into being able to exit your business well. Okay. It starts with the playbook, building a shop playbook. We have a change management workshop that we're going to talk more about next week, because that's next week's show, but it's there. Planning for success, so you can learn how to do long-term plans and actually succeed in implementing them. And then the succession and exit planning workshop. All of those workshops go together, and if you do all of them and you use the information in those workshops, you will have a successful exit.
And the foundation behind a lot of that are what people might consider the basic workshops.
Mhm.
There's nothing basic about them, and that's
right.
mastering shop finance.
Right.
And if you've done it once, I can guarantee you should do it again.
Yep.
Right. Controlling the front,
Absolutely.
getting those systems in place. Right. Professional service advisor training, all of those things, those are the linchpins. Those are the pylons that everything is built on.
Yeah. So that's a really important point. The more trained you are, the more trained your employees are, the better you'll be able to exit your shop. So next week we'll have Chris Bullinger from Olympic Truck Service, and we're going to be talking about managing change. And this is a workshop that we haven't really talked about very much. And we're going to go into a lot of different aspects of change management and why it's an important skill for you to know. So tune in for that one. And everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
That's right. So long. Thanks for joining us.